yes, you can lead with vulnerability. Brene Brown, I love that whole concept, but you can't frighten people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to come and say to your team, oh my God, I'm terrified, we won't make payroll. Like, no. Like, you can lead with vulnerability and say, like, I'm not sure where we're going. I'm not sure how we're going to get there. I believe in you, the team, da, 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 da. But you can't give everything all the time of what's going on inside.
You can either lean into a trend that's currently happening. You can have something that's more classic with a slight spin on it, or you can really be changing the conversation entirely, which is possible, but it just requires a lot more education, a lot more content, a lot more conversation and experiences and events like this.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll take many times, multiple times, to like get people to actually start using different language to describe the brand and what it stands for. So I love that you highlighted that event and kind of how you brought it to life to align with that bigger mission. What is, like, if you're willing to share, you've talked a lot about like the inner work and mindsets. What is your practice? Like, do you have a practice? What does that look like?
Yeah, good question. I have my own practice, which I call my somatic adventuring.
Oh my gosh, I love this. We need to know more.
Yeah, you do. It's funny because I'm like, the next project is my Somotonaut Adventure school.
I love it. I'm signed up.
Yeah, great. Excellent. So I developed just like a really quite extensive somatic awareness experiencing from my theater training, which just means that like I just like really know what's going on in my body, like more than most people, which is a blessing and a curse, because then I'm like, oh, I have a little pain in my little finger. Oh, like,
it means that like my spleen is
exactly. And so what I'll do is, I don't know, it's really hard to explain exactly what it is because it's a blend of things, but for those that know and are somatic people, they might know what I'm talking about. But it's like a blend of Alexander technique, Feldenkrais, some Kundalini yoga, although I find that area problematic. I have a few yoga trainings, but I don't teach them for some other problematic reasons. And then I just look for kind of mindfulness technique in the experiencing of the body. So what does this somatic journeying look like? It just looks like active release of like tension, breathing, realignment of the core. A lot of it has to do with also like voice and breath kind of mirroring each other, because this is a really interesting thing, because when you pick up the phone and someone can just go, hey, it's me, and you know exactly who it is.
Yes.
Like, we know people's voices. Like, we just can, like, we don't even have to think about it. And in the same way, also, if someone picks up the phone and goes, hey, you're like, oh my God, what's wrong? Like, we just know, right?
Yes.
And so a lot of like somatic journeying for me is like, okay, can I just get my voice to be much more connected?
Yes.
Much more like inside of my body.
Yes.
As I'm doing that, it looks kind of weird because, and I don't do this in public, but like, I'll just start like singing or talking to myself and being like, what kind of wants to come out? And then I realize actually how I'm feeling, because you can't let this out at work, right? Like, I can't like rage at people, but maybe I'm raging. So I do that later. And so that's kind of my practice and inner work, is like giving myself the time and permission to really make the somatic and psychological links between my emotions.
Yeah.
I'm very regulated when I'm leading people, and very open and available, and like can listen to what's going on with them. But that's such a wild thing about leadership, is that yes, you can lead with vulnerability. Brene Brown, I love that whole concept, but you can't frighten people.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to come and say to your team, oh my God, I'm terrified, we won't make payroll. Like, no.
Right.
Like, you can lead with vulnerability and say, like, I'm not sure where we're going. I'm not sure how we're going to get there. I believe in you, the team, da, 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 da. But you can't give everything all the time of what's going on inside.
Mm,
But you definitely need to make space for what's going on inside to like
mm-hmm.
let it move through.
Absolutely.
So I know for a lot of people, it's meditation and like yogic techniques and stuff. But I think you might have seen, even through this little podcast, that I'm a big history nerd. And I really, really dislike how in the West there's a habit in the wellness community, I put it in brackets, of not crediting where their work came from. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
go back to the concept of the blacksmith, it takes one generation to forget how to do something. I see that in the wellness community so strongly because
Mm-hmm.
we are translating what
Mm-hmm.
could be generationally passed on technique
Absolutely.
without context. And then
Mm-hmm.
without context, you can do all sorts of silly things
A
to your,
hundred
like,
percent.
anyway. So,
I 100% agree with that. Yeah, there's no, it's just, and the more you filter it through a new person and a new person and a new person, the less it loses, again, coming back to substance and actually
yeah.
the meaning of why you're doing this in the first place. Okay, so you touched on leadership, and I want to zoom in on this a little bit more because I would say watching you over the last 2 years of working together, I think it's been incredible what you've built. And I think one of your biggest strengths or zones of genius, I would say, is leading, managing, building strong teams, knowing who's doing what and why they're doing that and why they're where their skill sets lie and where their zone of genius lies, and being able to amplify that and also, motivate. Can you talk to me a little bit more about, did you know that you were good at this?
Thanks for sharing that. Um, I want to say yes, but also no. So, what I realized actually this past year, this has been part of my healing journey, is I realized, and I've been reflecting on, 10x is easier than 2x. They ask you to do like a backwards to be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, when in your past did you 10x your life? And a lot of it had to do with leadership, is that I would just naturally kind of go into the leadership role of projects. And but what's interesting is that I would often do it as the second in command, and
Hmm.
realized recently that I really let myself be undervalued, like really undervalued and not credited properly, like for many projects. Um,
The
okay, so
supporting
that's interesting.
role.
Yeah, but like it's like leading from the second in command. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I was leading, and that's the actual truth. Is
Mm-hmm.
that like
Mm-hmm.
by title, I was like one below the director. So I'd be like on a project, especially like a theater project, I'd be like the assistant director. But no, I was just directing, and the director was off doing something else. So they were really the artistic director, but they weren't directing that project.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just anyway, it doesn't matter. That's a whole other, women should learn to take credit for their work. And we're often
Mm-hmm.
told to wait until someone else gives you credit. But yeah, no, in that process, I learned a lot about leading, because I think there was a gift in like the fact that I wasn't given the title of leader, like, but it was just evident. And then I
Mm-hmm.
just did it because I could and I knew how to. And there's so many skills that are involved in that. Um,
So
yeah.